Today we're going to talk about interviewing practice. We're going to do a little bit next week, finishing up interviewing. In the last class is going to be talking about negotiations. So what we're eventually going to do today, in the not too distant future, is Kathy's going to be interviewing with me for a job. She's going to be looking for a job from me. And I'm going to be throwing several questions at her, nothing that's going to embarrass her. And you folks will be doing some critiquing. Not just of Kathy, but of anyone who would be interviewing, what things you thought were good, what things you thought might have needed some improvement. And then later on, I'm going to give some final tips for interviewing that folks should be working on. So let's talk like we normally talk about our homework. How many folks reviewed the questions we went over last week? Okay, we got one. That's good. Anyone else?
What were the questions? I can't remember what were they.
We didn't go over any of the questions. We went over all the questions. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? We went over like maybe about 30. Was anyone awake when we had that class last week? Okay, none was awake. No wonder why you didn't know about the homework.
Actually, I sort of made up like a questionnaire for myself so that, when you fill it in once, you can fill it again and change a little bit. And,
well, I would strongly.
The questions were good.
Yeah, I know you folks are coming to the class on a regular basis, but you need to actually start doing the homework. I mean, some of you obviously have a few more months to go than others as I'm looking around the room. But you want to make sure you know the answers to those questions because those questions are going to be coming up. How many people went to one of the 2 sessions for the outplacement service? Okay, 3 or 4 of you went to that as well. That was last Thursday. And from what I heard, I know there's some extra booklets if folks want to get booklets and read on their own. But they also had quite a few similarities between what we talked about in a couple sessions before, so I don't think I was way off base with what I was talking about. Set up 2 networking meetings with peers from Shelton. How many set up 1 networking meeting at all? Just 1. Okay, guys. I'm just reminding you just to make you feel guilty, make you feel like crap, because time is running out and you're losing people. It's going to be much harder to get the 3 sets of people, or the 4 sets of people, I'm looking at the imaging people, it's going to be much harder to get the folks that are here after the middle of September. You're not going to be able to sit down with Kathy Kiley after the middle to the end of September and say, hey Kath, I want to practice with you, and I want to see if you know any contacts in the Valley that work at these companies. She's going to be gone. And it's going to be harder for you to go drive up to her house in Seymour to make that happen, because it's your job to make the networking person's job easier. Not to say, hey, Kath, can you come down? Because I'm working. Kath is going to say, yeah, well, I'm busy looking for my job too. So, she's going to want to help you, but it's a lot easier to do it now. So, I'm making you feel good. It's not working because no one's still doing any of the homework. So, what's that?
We will.
We will. That's good to hear. Okay, so we're going to do an interviewing example, and it should take about, we'll see. We really haven't time. As a matter of fact, Kathy doesn't even know any of the questions that are coming out. So it's going to be about 15 or 20 minutes. I will be the interviewer. Kathy will be on the interview. She is looking for an administrative assistant position. We thought that'd be easier. First off, we think that's what she's going to be looking for, as well as what her resume says she's going to be looking for. And I want to mention that the interview is going to take place after she left, so maybe it's early part of October. And I want you folks to take notes. You might want to. Okay, I want you folks to take notes. The list of items that Kathy did well, and the list of items that Kathy can improve upon, so that. And you obviously can see for yourself what things could be going better and what things can't be going better. But obviously, Kathy is playing our guinea pig on this, so we believe she's going to do an excellent job. And even if she doesn't, it's going to be a learning experience. Any questions before we start? Come on in. Kathleen, Kylie, Harold, Derek, how are you?
Nice to meet you, Harold. Great.
How's it going? Did you have a hard time finding the place today?
Not at all.
Excellent. Excellent. Let's get right into it. I know time is of the essence. I know you have another couple people you have to talk to after me. So tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, Harold, I've worked many years as an administrative professional. I've been in different industries, which gives me a good background. I've worked in manufacturing, financial services, as well as being a business owner. And that has given me a good exposure to a lot of broad abilities. So I'm looking to continue to expand that. I've worked for individual CEOs and many VPs, and I've had a lot of good opportunities to work on projects. So I'm looking forward to kind of expanding in those areas as well.
Great. Now, I got your resume in front of me. Looks like you just came from American Scandia.
Yes, I did.
Why don't you tell me a little bit about your last job?
Well, it was a great job. American Scandia, as you know, was a startup company. And
Were you there from the start?
no, I was not. I started there in February of 2000, and I was there for almost 5 years. They were acquired by Prudential Financial, and I was hired to work for 4 VPs in the operational area.
4 VPs?
Yes, I was.
Oh my God, can you imagine how hard that is?
Well, it took some multitasking and knowing how to prioritize what you were doing, but it was a great experience because I got exposure to a lot of different departments, and that was helpful. As you see from my resume, I worked in the financial services industry, but it was many years ago. So I actually really appreciated coming in as administrative assistant because I got good exposure to what the company was doing from kind of a ground level. And those departments included the claims area, service development, which was in charge of operational initiatives. It was a group of project managers. There was also business continuity. That's perfect. And there was one other department.
So it was quite a few that you were supported.
Actually, King Captain was part of the service development as well.
So you're supporting
Yes.
a lot of different people, a lot of different departments.
Correct. At one point, it was over 140 people within those organizations.
Why did you leave American Scandia?
They were acquired by Prudential Annuities, and our department was merged into operations in Fort Washington, Pennsylvania. So our department closed
And when did you leave?
September of 2004.
So looking over your resume, it looks like at American Scandia, you worked on quite a few projects as well as the other responsibilities as administrative assistant. How were you able to balance both the project work as well as the regular day-to-day admin work?
Well, I truly attribute that to who my manager was. He gave me a lot of opportunity. He was a very independent manager and did a lot of his own administrative stuff, which freed me up to work on a lot of special projects. So I very much appreciated that about him, that I was given opportunity and time to use other skills besides my administrative strengths.
Well, I hope you know I'm not nearly as good as your ex-manager was. I really do need a lot more administrative help. Is that going to be a problem?
No, it's not, because it goes back to prioritizing, which tasks need to be done, which can be set aside temporarily, each day. Everyone has their own system, and I certainly have mine that would include, running to-do lists and particulars, but knowing what needs to be done and separating the urgent from the important. Each day you have urgent things that are trying to grab your attention, but you need to be able to prioritize as to the important task and make sure that the supervisor is able to do his job.
I see before that you worked for microboard processing. You worked for a CEO.
Yes, I did.
I aspire to be a CEO, but I'm not yet at the CEO position. So how was it working for someone who's at the top level?
It was good. It was exciting because you got to see, the strategy of what was happening with the company. And there as well, I also assisted 4 other VPs. And that was also operations. There was a VP of marketing, VP of development. So I again got exposed to a lot of different things. And because it was a small and growing company, I was able to branch out in a lot of different areas. I had my regular day-to-day responsibilities, but the company was growing as well. I had conceptualized and also developed the employee newsletter. They had no newsletter prior to that, and became the kind of editor-in-chief of that. And that was kind of one exciting project. They also had needed help with their sales literature, and I developed a lot of their sales literature and put it into an attractive package, and did it within budget and on time.
Great. Now I see you stayed there for a little less than 2 years. It looks like there's a gap between December of '99 and February of 2000. What happened? Why did you leave?
Actually, I was applying. I knew about American Scandia as being an excellent company, and I was applying to get in, and I took a temporary job down at Bristol Myers Squibb in Stanford.
So you still were working?
Actually, yes.
Well, why did you leave microboard processing?
They were a smaller company. Their benefits were not very good. I was a benefit holder. In addition, as a smaller company, there were not things such as tuition reimbursement, and I wanted to get into a larger organization that showed more stability. Plus, the CEO was a wacko.
That's good to know. Well, speaking of whackos, can you tell me about your least favorite boss and why? Why that?
My least favorite boss probably was the CEO that I just referred to. He did a lot of micromanaging, and I prefer to work independently. You can show me what needs to be done, and then I have the intelligence to be able to prioritize and decide what needs to be done, and can handle all that. I do not need someone looking over my shoulder every minute, because as an admin, a lot of executives, they're so focused on their work, and that's what they need to do. An administrative professional oftentimes handles things every day that the executive is never aware of, and that's how it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be kind of seamless. So they're maybe giving work to the admin, but there may be 5 other things that are coming at her from different directions. So with the micromanaging, it made it difficult to be able to juggle all those different things, but I was up to the challenge and we worked well together, but it was time to move on to a new opportunity.
So if I'm a micromanager, you would not want this job?
I think to work best, I can work in any situation. It's not that I wouldn't want the job, but I think it'll help you be a better boss and help me be a better professional to be able to give you my job, let me do it, and then have you focus on your more important things as opposed to focusing on a lower level things.
What has been your favorite position out of all these and why?
I would say my most recent position was one of my favorites. I have a few favorites actually. I really enjoyed working on special projects, especially in the area of e-commissions and e-documents. For those projects, we had many broker-dealers that we were encouraging to take advantage of online commission statements and to accept electronic payments. The e-documents project, we were trying to encourage our broker-dealers to sign up for online transaction confirms and quarterly statements. And I was able to work with a lot of different marketing ideas, come up with new creative ideas to encourage them to kind of sell the advantages. And as you see from the resume, I have a sales background from prior years and also spent approximately 14, 15 years as a video producer and business owner, and you have to make things happen there. And so working on these special projects, I was able to be creative and kind of make things happen. You can see by some of the percentage results that we were able to encourage 80% participation by our broker-dealers to utilize the online commission statements, and an additional 50% of the broker-dealers to accept ACH payments. So it was a lot of fun to kind of first have to conceptualize how you were going to get this done and then plan it out and make up these marketing pieces, see them, think of all the different communication avenues that we could use to get the message out, and then to actually see results come in and hear feedback from the broker-dealers that yes, it was indeed an easier way to do business. So that was an exciting part. But I also enjoyed business ownership. Was a lot of fun because I got a really broad responsibilities there and was able to use a lot of the creative skills. As noted in the resume, we started out as a small company working primarily in a wedding market, but through some aggressive marketing we were able to enter into about 4 other markets that really helped the company expand, and I began as kind of just the marketing office manager, and when I left the company, I was doing all phases of video production as well, including post-production editing, voiceover, script writing.
What makes you stand out among your peers?
I think it's a flexibility. I mean, the world as it is now, it's constantly changing. Nothing stays the same. And I am a person who enjoys continuing to grow. In fact, if this particular position stayed the same for 5 years, I think it would be difficult for me. I tend to feel stagnant after a while. I enjoy new projects. I enjoy changes. I enjoy looking at processes and seeing how we might improve them. So,
what will you do to make my life easier?
I would find out what type of a manager you are, what kind of communication you like to hear. Every manager is different, and I've worked for many different executives, and each one was very different and had different needs. So part of my job is to find out what makes you work best. whether it be direct verbal communications, whether it be email communications, whether it be micromanaging your schedule or allowing you to do that yourself. So part of my job is, even though it's kind of comical, the books that are out there, but as far as managing your boss, it's more about knowing who your boss is and finding out what strengths and weaknesses he has and being able to fill in those gaps and make him look stronger. As they say, every good executive has a strong active mind.
Just kidding. I'm sure I have one, I just can't think of it. Speaking of which, what is your top weakness?
I would think kind of my top asset is also my weakness. I'm a good multitasker and I can get a lot of work done. And I've had many bosses say that, they think that you're good at spinning a lot of plates. But there have been times that I am so anxious to get so much work done that I have to watch my attention to detail. So I find that if I'm good at taking notes and staying on the ball with that, that very little will fall through the cracks. And I realize that as I take on larger portions of projects, you have to be careful what falls there. So it's ability to get a lot of work done, but trying to make sure that all those plates are spinning at the same time.
Any other weakness?
Not that I can think of.
None, just one. Can you give me an example of, you mentioned on your resume you're a writing and editorial expert. Can you give me an example of
One example of a project that is not even on the resume was a broker services re-engineering project. This was a department that was kind of plagued by problems, and basically they just needed to be redirected. And with my prior boss from American Scandia, I was part of a project team that re-engineered all the processes. And with that, we had to write a very strong recommendation to the steering committee, and this was about a 30-page document. And not only, it was not just saying this is what we can do to fix it. There were a lot of parties involved that really needed to be sold this concept, because as much as change frequently happens, people do not like change. So we really wrote a strong recommendation for that. I was part of that, and the recommendation went over well, and almost all of the recommendations that we gave were implemented. There were also other opportunities to write the creative marketing pieces. Not only included some of the postcards that went out, some of them were marketing letters that went out to encourage the BDs. There were also telephone scripts. And so I've done a lot of phases of what you would kind of call business writing, not as much technical writing, but they tend to have more of a marketing sales type of slant. And the other last very important one is when American Scandia was really in its growth period, there was a very robust company intranet, and I was a regular contributor to articles for the intranet. Was kind of designated as a communications facilitator is what my boss called me, and he expected me to be writing and contributing articles almost on a weekly basis. And so I had a great opportunity, and it was a super time to be able to toot our horn, because the operations group, the kind of saying is that if nothing's broken, they kind of don't know that you're working there, but as soon as something is amiss, they know that there's something wrong in operations. So it was very good for us to get the word out about the initiatives and the accomplishments that we had going on, and it encourages the employees as well, and they get to see that their hard efforts and hard work is recognized and put up in the limelight.
Tell me about your last performance appraisal, and in what area or areas were you most disappointed?
My last performance appraisal on a range of 1 to 5, most of my scores were in the 3 to 4 area, but I should preface that by saying I worked for a boss who never gave out 5s. He did not believe that anyone should have a 5, and if they had a 5, that they were in the wrong job. So if you look at it in that way, there were a lot of 4s there that showed outstanding performance. But I'm a firm believer too, and I have said to every boss that I work for that, I know that I'm far from perfect, and I'm always looking for areas to grow. And There were a lot of great accomplishments through the year that were recognized. But the one thing that kept coming back to haunt me was that attention to detail that I needed to watch sometimes with, when I was very busy, letting the document come out perhaps with a typo in it. And so just being very careful with that.
Why do you want to work here?
I heard great things about the company, and I'll be looking forward to when I can ask you a few questions to hear some more things, but I've heard that the company is growing. I heard that it's fast, fun, and flexible. I like the idea that it's emerging into new markets. So I've heard great things about the company.
Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
I see myself in 5 years as an extension of the present job. Since this is an administrative assistant position in the marketing department, that's what really attracted me to the job. I know I can add some really valuable skills as an admin, but also to be able to be some value added in some of these other areas. So I specifically kind of targeted this area so that there would be some kind of a career path into either a marketing assistant type position or a communications role where I can be an asset.
You know, close your eyes. You know, if you had a magic wand, you could wave a magic wand, what would your ideal position
What I liked about admin work was that it was diversified work. So an ideal position for me would be something that I still have diversity within the position. Ideally, I would love to be marketing whatever that product is, but to have a full exposure to kind of be able to bring things cradle to grave, as they say, to be able to come up with concepts and make up the plan for that and see them implement it and then see the results of that. I like to be working with parts of teams. I do enjoy people. I enjoy the rewards that come with working with a team that is able to accomplish a whole lot more than one individual is. So I would enjoy working a combination between individual projects and working on a team. But I'd like it to be able to encompass a lot of my skills. I do have a good, strong administrative base, and I think that's helpful for whatever position you rise to. But I would like it to also include communications, marketing, writing. I have a good amount of experience in public speaking, so whether it had some public relations roles within the position as well. So I think it's a little bit of an idea. And I also love lots of flex time and $1 million and all the things that everyone wants in a dream job. But I do have to say that a work-life balance would definitely be part of a dream job, as that is still important to me.
Last question. Tell me, why should I hire you?
You should hire me because I'll make you look good. I think that an executive is only as good as the assistant below him. If she's not giving him what he needs to be successful, it can make his job a lot more difficult. I think I've shown, have a proven track record in here working with many different VPs, and if I can work for several, I can certainly make one successful. And one of the most important assets that an executive has to have is good communications and writing skills, and I've been able to help a lot of my prior bosses in that area that a lot of times are good strategists, they're geniuses, but writing may not be their strongest skill. In fact, the prior CEO, I used to do speech writing for him. I used to go out and do motivational speeches, and I used to help him do some of that speech writing since I am a Toastmaster and had done a lot of public speaking in prior positions. So I understand that my job is to help my executive be successful, and I have a proven track record for that, and I'm confident that I can do that.
Usually at the end of interviews, we don't ask the audience to give a good round of applause. How easy for what Kathy just did.
Now,
Before we go to the
do
board.
I interview you?
No. Before we go to the board.
Let's take a vote.
Before we go to the board, I want to hear your feedback, sitting in that chair. How is it on your side from?
I don't feel prepared enough. Part of my situation is when I leave here, I do plan on doing some video production work first to help my husband, and catching up on some household things in possible preparation to sell our house. So I don't even really plan to look for a job until January. So unfortunately, I'm not in the right mental mindset yet. So it was good that I was forced to do this over the last couple days. I've got a few gray hairs. But I don't know enough about my projects. And you were kind of good in the way that your questions were a little vague, but I still feel that my answers were still too vague, that they needed to be more specific with examples. I felt I was kind of lacking in that. I could also hear my ums, which I'm very conscious of ums.
I didn't hear any.
Good, I'll have to rerun the video tape.
I mean, you might have said them, but I didn't hear them, so. Okay, well, why don't you, let's get on the board, let's talk about the good things that Kathy did first. Don't worry, I'm not gonna ask for any other volunteers.
I thought she sounded well prepared and, answered the question successfully and quickly without waiting, half an hour to think about her answer, which is what I would probably do.
Yet I actually felt that I sometimes jumped in too quickly. Another second would have been okay to formulate my thoughts.
Okay.
I think Kathy's responses were always put in a negative spin. A positive spin and not negative. She talked about being overloaded and multitasking, and it never seemed to be a burden or a bother to her.
Okay.
She tried to bring her strengths down into her answers.
Sometimes more successful than others. Okay.
She talked positively about her past boss.
Even though he was a wacko.
No.
No. When she spoke of her
Right.
most recent boss, she spoke positively.
Most recent.
I think that was kind of like a sideline.
Gotcha.
Should get that 5 now.
Yeah, it was.
Anything else? Body language. Tell me about body language.
She didn't fidget too much.
What's that?
She was confident.
She
You're
sounded
confident?
straight.
But she didn't fidget. She
She
wasn't
didn't fidget.
all
Okay,
over the
didn't
place.
fidget.
She was engaged.
Engaged. Confident. Yes, but fidget.
Looked at
Engaged.
you.
What's that?
Eye
Looked at you in
contact.
the eye.
Good eye contact. Okay.
She referred to her resume.
Refer to resume. Obviously had a copy of it in front of her. Made her feel a little more confident. She could look down. Oh, that's right, I forgot about this project, and now I can talk about this project. And as she said, she didn't think she was as well prepared as she could have been, but that's a good point. I put down here, she held her conversation. I asked her a question, and she went on for a while. And she would just take the conversation. I could have interrupted if I wanted to. I just wanted to see where she was going to go with it. And she would tell us examples, and she would give me another story, and she'd give me another example. So she was confident enough to just continue doing what she was doing, and she spoke confident. You didn't see her, she didn't whisper, her voice wasn't lower, she came out and she spoke confident.
And should you keep on talking that much? I can't imagine talking that much.
If your interviewer will let you talk that much, talk that much. You're selling yourself. We ran out of tape, so we're going to just give you the slides that you may have missed from the rest of the class, and we'll give you some time
Any
to read
quick
each.
comments here, Harold?
No, they're all pretty much self-explanatory. So it's just a reminder of things that we talked about in the last class or two. But it's just more tips as to what folks should be doing when they are interviewing for a job. So maintain the external calm. The more embarrassing the question, the shorter the answer. Kathy did a great job of, why did you lose your job at American Scandia? She just asked him, answer the question, and then just pretty much stopped, which was great. And after you answer a question, you should stop. If you don't know the answer to a question, say so. Kathy did not have that problem. It's just all the questions were pretty straightforward. If asked a what-if question, you have the ability to take your time and think about what the answer is before you answer. Closing signals. Obviously, I didn't give Kathy a chance to ask any of her questions. but definitely make sure you're asking questions that are relative to the job, show that you want the job and you want to belong to the company. But closing signals is if the interviewer looks at his or her watch, if the interviewer stands up or sits up straight or starts leaning forward like they're getting ready to get up. The interviewer may ask if there's anything else about you that was not already discussed, or they may ask if you have any other last questions. That's the interviewer's getting ready to stop the interview, so make sure you've gotten all your things in there before you do that. Last questions for HR. So theoretically, you might speak to HR again before you leave for the day. You're going to want to ask these kind of questions. What are the next steps in the process? So you know a little bit how long you're waiting, what's the timing, how many more people you have to talk to. Will there be any additional rounds of interviews? Or in other words, are you going to be coming back? Do you have to talk to 2 or 3 more people again? And when we notify the candidates one way or the other. So you're trying to get a timing issue there so that you're not bothering folks too often, but you also aren't waiting forever for a telephone call as to whether you got the job or not. And last but not least, the homework. Hopefully you guys are all doing your homework. I would pick 10 questions and I would work on those 10 questions with your partner. I'd have your partner do the exact same thing, and I would formally answer them out loud in front of each other and then critique each other just like we critique Kathy about what good things and bad things that she did in her interview. And obviously, as I've been meeting you all up for every single week, set up your 2 networking meetings with peers from Shelton, because they're all around, they're all still here, and they all have valuable information for you to have. So I think that's it. Thank you very much, and we will see you next week.